Some leaders ask their team for something and get hesitation. Others ask for the exact same thing and get an instant yes. And it's not charisma or luck, it's psychology. In this video, I'll show you 10 simple tricks that make your team say yes from the secrets I learned as a mentalist and directly applied to being a better executive. In mentalism, there's a simple trick we use all the time. You begin by talking as if the possibilities were wide open. The audience feels like anything could happen. The field feels broad. Their imagination opens up. But when the moment of decision comes, you don't leave them with 20 directions. You offer 2, maybe 3, just enough to preserve the feeling of freedom, but not enough to create friction. And because the conversation started with range, the person experiences the choice as broader than it really is. That matters because people don't usually resist decisions. They resist the feeling of being cornered. Leaders do this badly all the time. They walk into a meeting and say, what do you think? And it sounds collaborative, but it usually creates fog. Or they do the opposite. This is what we're doing. It sounds decisive, but it often creates silent resistance. The better move is to narrow the choice without making people feel boxed in. Instead of, what should we do here? You might give them a couple of options, the ones you want to steer them to. Do we want to solve this for speed or for accuracy? Now people can move. The first trick is to narrow the choice. It works because you're not forcing the outcome, you're reducing the mental load. It's like the old sales trick. Do you want 1 egg or 2? It's the same idea. There's another thing mentalists learn very quickly. If I walk up to someone and say, give me a number, feels kind of random, even mechanical. But when something feels random, people don't lean in hard. They might comply, but they don't lean in. They don't feel like the moment matters enough to care. Now, the exact same action can carry weight. If I say, I'd like you to choose a random number, a completely free choice, and that number will give us a clue about who you are, and it will make what happens next make sense. Now everyone's paying attention. The participant is paying attention. And when they give me the number, it no longer feels like a random instruction. It feels like a meaningful decision. Same ask, different frame, completely different response. Many leaders do the opposite. They start with a task. I need this by Friday. Can you change this slide? We need to shift direction. And sometimes people will do it, but inside it feels like another demand dropped onto the pile of demands. What gets people to move faster isn't just the ask. It's the meaning behind it. And that's trick 2. It's to state the meaning before the ask. So instead of, I need the deck by Friday, say, if we get this right by Friday, we walk into the client meeting with control instead of scrambling. So let's get it done by Friday. Instead of, can you rewrite this page? Say, this is the page that investors are going to use to decide whether we are credible. So let's rewrite it to be a bit tighter. Now the ask means something. And once people understand the stakes, the task gets lighter because they're not deciding whether to do it or not. They're aligning with the worth of what needs to be done. And when that meaning is clear, action happens fast. Years ago, when I was performing on cruise ships, a juggler came up to me after a show and asked, how do you do that? I said, do what? I mean, I'm a magician. What are you asking me? He said, how do you get people just to help you? You walk into the audience, you point at someone and you say, you, come with me. And they just do. When I do it, people say no, or they hesitate, or they fight me. But with you, they just listen. You know what? He was right. I would walk into the audience, point at someone, and bring them up, and they would just come, not because I had some kind of secret power over them, not because I was louder or more intimidating. The difference was simpler than that. I was certain. I wasn't asking like I hoped they might help. I wasn't scanning the room like I was unsure. I was certain they were the right person. And I left no doubt that they needed to come up. And that certainty changed everything because people don't only respond to your words. They respond to how much doubt is wrapped around them. And that's the trick. Lead with certainty. In mentalism, if I look uncertain, the moment weakens. The audience feels it immediately. But if I move as though this is the obvious next step, people follow that feeling. Certainty narrows the space for resistance. The same thing happens in business. A lot of leaders think they're being collaborative when really they're being foggy. They say, maybe we could try this, or I was kind of thinking that we might, or do you want to maybe take a look at this when you get a chance? That doesn't sound thoughtful. That sounds unsure. And when your language sounds unsure, people don't just question the idea, they question whether you believe it yourself. When the leader sounds like they're waiting for permission, everyone gives them hesitation. When the leader sounds like they know what needs to happen, everybody relaxes into that clarity. There's a mistake a lot of leaders make when they want agreement. They keep pressing for yes. Do you agree? Does that make sense? Are you on board? And the more they try to do it, the more manipulative it starts to feel. Because when someone feels pushed towards a yes, even if it's a good idea, it starts to feel like a trap. This is something negotiators understand super well. People don't feel safe when they're being marched towards agreement. They feel safe when they still have agency, when they could push back, when they could say no. It works the same way in mentalism. The moment someone feels forced, they resist. The moment they feel free, they relax. And once they relax, they're much easier to lead. So sometimes the smartest move isn't to chase a yes, it's trick 4. Get them to say no. Because no gives people a feeling of control. If I ask in a way that corners you, your instinct is to protect yourself. But if I ask in a way that lets you disagree, you're not defending your freedom anymore. Leaders get this wrong all the time. Can everyone agree to this? Are we aligned? It sounds harmless, but it puts pressure on everyone, and pressure creates guarded answers. The better move is to ask in a way that people can say no. Like, is there any reason we shouldn't move on this today? Would it be a mistake if we made this a priority? Do you see anything that makes this the wrong direction? Now it feels different. Because people aren't being pushed into surrender. They're being invited to think. And when someone says, no, I don't see a reason not to move, that answer belongs to them. They own it. And that's the point. When people get to say no first, the yes feels like their decision. Not borrowed agreement, not polite agreement, owned agreement. Now that we've done that, one of the strongest ways to get someone to say yes in a big moment is to make sure they've already said yes in a few smaller ones. I learned that when I performed on Penn and Teller Fool Us. Allison Hannigan was hosting, and I knew where my routine was going. At the key moment, I was going to ask her to pull this lever to the gallows that I was standing on. That's not a small ask. That's a loaded moment. If that was the first thing I asked of her, the weight of that hits her all at once. The danger, the pressure, the drama, all of it lands at the same time. So I didn't start there. I involved her early. Small tasks first. Simple things. Nothing that felt heavy or risky. But each one brought her into the rhythm of the piece, so that she was no longer a distant observer, she was part of the flow. So by the time of the big ask, it didn't feel like a sudden leap. It felt like a natural next step. Allison, are you ready?
Well, I guess.
Allison, do it! After trick 4, that's trick 5. Start with a small yes. The big yeses land better when they're built upon smaller ones. And many leaders get this wrong. They go straight to the big ask. Can you lead this? Can we commit to this strategy? We're changing direction starting now. And sometimes everyone just isn't there yet because the leap is too big. The better move is to build momentum first. For example, instead of can you take over this whole client relationship, start with can you join in the next call and listen for risk points? Now they're moving. Now they're participating. And once someone is already moving with you, the next yes comes way easier. In mentalism, one of the easiest ways to ruin a strong moment is to talk over it. If something amazing has just happened, a prediction hits, a reveal connects, and I rush straight through it, that moment gets smaller. Instead, if I'm certain enough to let it breathe, everything becomes way more compelling. The same principle applies before the reveal too. If I set up a moment and just keep talking, I dilute the tension. But if I ask and then pause, the room tightens. People focus. They feel the moment landing in real time. This is easy as a leader to miss. Trick 6, the pause rule. We make a clear request and immediately start talking again. Can you take this on? I know you're busy. Obviously, if now is not the right time, I think it's the right direction unless everyone feels strongly otherwise. I need your answer by tomorrow just because of timing and the client and everything else. What are we doing? We're rescuing ourselves from the silence. And the moment we rush to fill it, we communicate doubt. A pause does the opposite. If you say, I want you to lead this, and then stop, that lands differently. If you say, this is the priority, and then stop, that lands differently. If you ask, can we move on this today? And then stop, that lands differently because now the other person has space to process it and feel it and then answer without feeling overmanaged. The silence after the ask is part of the ask, and the beat after it is often where buy-in actually happens. In mentalism, sometimes the easiest way to make something stand out is not to push harder, is to place it right beside the right things. If I put 3 objects on a table, a pen, a cup, and a shoe, which one gets chosen more often? The shoe. Not because I told you to pick it, not because I forced you to pick it, but because it's unusual. It creates contrast. The pen and the cup feel normal. They belong. But the shoe feels different, and that difference pulls attention towards it. The comparison does the work for you. Trick 7 is to use contrast. Many executives don't do this. They present their preferred idea in isolation, explain the plan, talk through the benefits, and hope everybody sees what they can see. But when you present one path without contrast, it just feels like another opinion in the pile. People don't evaluate choices in isolation. They evaluate them by comparison. Create contrast when you present options. And when the contrast is clear, the decision makes itself. In mentalism, if you ignore the doubt or question in the room, that doubt or question gets louder. People are always asking silent questions. Is that a real deck? Was that person influenced? Could he see that? Was that set up somehow? And if I pretend those questions aren't there, the audience starts drifting away from me. Instead, I say, check this deck out. I bought it at Costco. Or, I want you to draw a picture, but step over there where we can't see you. That's not throwaway language. That's strategic. I'm answering the objection before it becomes a problem. I'm telling the audience, yes, I know what you might be wondering, and I'm not hiding from it. The moment people feel that, they relax because they don't have to spend energy guarding against the method. They stay with the experience. Trick 8 is you name resistance early. Leadership works the same way. A lot of leaders present an idea and act like nobody should have any concerns, or worse, they avoid the obvious objection and hope it doesn't come up. But everyone's already thinking it. They're thinking, this sounds like more work. This could slow us down. This looks better in theory than in practice. And if you don't name that, people assume you either don't see it or you see it and you're avoiding it, and neither helps you. The stronger move is to say it first. I know the concern here is that this adds work up front, or at first glance, this probably feels slower, or I know some of you are probably thinking that this sounds clean on paper, but messy in reality. Now things change because you name the resistance first and you show command. You show awareness. You take away the secret power of the objection. And the leader who could say the hard thing first usually keeps focus and attention. In mentalism, a participant should never have to guess what happens next. The second someone is standing there wondering where to go or what to hold or what I mean, the moment starts to wobble. And you can feel it instantly. The energy drops, the rhythm breaks. The audience starts watching the confusion instead of the effect. That's why strong mentalism feels smooth. If I bring someone on stage and say, take this and hold it in your palm and don't let it go, that moment stays clear. They know exactly what to do. The experience keeps moving forward. What if I say, just stand over there? No, actually over here, and then hold that. Not like that. The next step is vague and the energy disappears. Trick 9 is to make the next step obvious. So you might say, instead of let's tighten this up, you might say, Sarah, rewrite the opening by 3. A vague yes creates no momentum. A clear next step with timing involved does. In the last trick in mentalism, I don't just give someone a task, I give them a role. I might say, you seem like someone with good instincts, or you're going to be perfect for this, or you strike me as the type of person that notices details. That's not filler. The moment someone starts to see themselves as the right person for the moment, their behavior changes. They step in differently. They participate differently. They stop asking like a random audience member and start acting like someone who belongs inside of the experience. And hesitation drops. They're no longer deciding from scratch each time. They're continuing something that's already in motion. So trick 10 is to trigger identity and momentum. Business works the same way. A lot of leaders ask for action like it's a one-off task. Can you take this on? Can somebody handle this? We need to move faster. But compare that to this. You're good at bringing order to messy situations. I want you on this. Or, this is the kind of team that fixes problems before they become politics. Or, you're the right person for this because you catch what other people miss. Now the action is connected to identity. And if you want to make it even stronger, you add momentum immediately. You add time constraints and practical steps to help. Because people don't just commit to tasks, they commit to who they believe they are. Now that you have these 10 tricks, watch this next video on how to use them to control how your team acts.